Okay, so today we're going to be looking at acute right and obtuse triangles, so I thought, good idea to review what is an acute triangle, what's a right triangle, what's an obtuse triangle. So if you look at these diagrams here, you should know that acute triangles are triangles with all angles less than 90 degrees. So here you see like 40, 80, 60, 85, 85, 10, and 60, 60, 60 with an equilateral triangle. So that's an acute triangle. All right, right triangles, pretty much says it in the name, just kind of like, acute, less than 90. Right triangles are any triangle with one angle, exactly 90 degrees. So, like, remember, a triangle has to add up to 180, so you can't have two 90-degree angles because you'd have 90, 90, and then you'd be at 180, and there'd be nothing left for this angle. So, only one angle, 90 degrees. Another fun fact that helps here is that these two angles have to add up to 90 to make the whole thing into 180. So it's an easy way to figure out, like, if this is 30, you just go, oh, 90 minus 30, great, angle A is 60. Easy, simple. All right, and obtuse triangles. Hopefully you can see it right here. Obtuse triangles are triangles with one angle greater than 90 degrees. So, like, same idea. You can't have two angles greater than 90 degrees because that'd be too big for a triangle. It would be more than 180. So you have one angle greater than 90 degrees. That's an obtuse triangle. Cool. So we're going to figure out here, just given three side lengths, that's what we're doing today. Any three side lengths whatsoever, you can tell me, is it an acute triangle, a right triangle, or an obtuse triangle? But related to that, we also are going to review the Pythagorean theorem a little bit, which should be some review from middle school. You should have seen this before. The most famous way of writing it is, of course, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Hopefully you've seen that before, seen it maybe misrepresented in The Wizard of Oz, for example. And the key with this is one real thing. A and B are interchangeable. A and B are what are called the legs, and the legs are the two sides that create the 90-degree angle. So A and B make the 90-degree angle. You add them up together, you combine them, you get that 90-degree angle right there. Now, C is the hypotenuse. And for the hypotenuse is always the longest side, but it's also always across from the 90-degree angle. So that's the real key, is figuring out which side is C. In this case, C is across from now. C is always across from the right angle. It's this side right here in this diagram. And, basically what you do is you take the length of A, you square it, and take the length of B and square it, add them up. And if it equals C squared, then you have a right triangle. So this only works for right triangles when it's equal. However, sometimes it's not equal. So, like, for example, what if a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared? And you're like, that's ridiculous. That could never happen. Oh, yeah? Give me 1 second. I'll show you an example. So in this example right here, you have 4, 4, and 5. Those are my cats. Don't worry about them. 5 has to be your C, of course, because remember, C is the biggest side. And then 4 and 4 are A and B. So let's test it out here. Let's try it out. We got 4 squared plus 4 squared. And we're going to compare that to 5 squared. So we get 16 plus 16. And that's 25. Then we get 32 versus 25. Well, 32 is greater than 25. So what this means is this is not a right triangle. It can't be a right triangle. For it to be a right triangle, these would have to be equal. But there's different stuff that works out when it's greater than or less than. So sometimes you'll also see examples where it's less than. What we're going to do today, you're going to go through a Desmos activity, which is linked on Google Classroom, and then you're going to figure out what happens. What kind of triangle is formed when a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared? What kind of triangle is formed when a squared plus b squared is less than c squared? So work through the Desmos, and that should tell you all you need to know. Or you could just wait till this next slide. Who knows? All right, so here's what you should have taken out of the Desmos, but you should have probably done the Desmos too. Don't just cheat and skip ahead to this, because you're not learning anything, and you won't really understand why, and you won't see it. And if you see it, it's a little better for you. So first off, if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, that's clearly a right triangle. That's the Pythagorean theorem. You know and love it. You've seen it for years. Great. Now, if a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, like the example we had last slide right there, that forms, every single time, an acute triangle. Cool, 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 cool. And the last one here, also, by the way, remember these have to actually form a triangle, so a plus b has to be greater than c. But, as long as it actually forms a triangle, which you should have seen in the Desmos, then if c squared is greater than a squared plus b squared, what you're going to get is an obtuse triangle. And we'll go over more of this tomorrow, too.